Hello and welcome to the Rails board meeting. Today is Friday, May 22nd, 2020, and my name is Paul Mills. I am president of the Rails board, and I am calling this meeting to order at 10:01 a.m. A special note, this meeting will include a closed session. We will be handling this by moving all non-board member Zoom meeting participants into a waiting room until the board votes to move out of closed session. Another housekeeping note, everyone please remember to unmute yourself before you speak and say your name when making a motion or comment. That makes it much easier for Emily to record the minutes. And thank you. And so speaking of Emily, would you please call the roll?
Sure. Dave Barry.
Here.
Stu Busenbark.
Here.
Michael Campbell.
Here.
Haley Cox.
Here.
Gwen Gregory.
Here.
Percy Harris. Diane Hollister.
Here.
Sarah McCone Chase.
Here.
Paul Mills.
Here.
Pat Poynton.
Here.
Dee Runnels. Nadia Shake.
Here.
Thomas Stagg.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, Emily. All right, so folks, we are
Oh,
now.
I'm sorry. This is Jenna. I just wanted to say I think I might have had an audio issue. I didn't hear Emily call my name, but I am here.
I got you. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenna, and thank you, Emily. All right, so we're now on to recognition of guests and announcements. We're going to do guest introductions a little bit differently. Emily is going to read the name of the guests who are participating via Zoom. So Emily, would you kindly do that?
Sure. Jim Krieger, Rails, Emily Price, Rails, Beard Rails, Mary Witt, Rails, Monica Harris, Rails, Mark Hatch, Rails, Ryan Hebel, Rails, Jody Rubel, Rails, Joe Philippek, Rails, Ann Slaughter, Rails, Karen Egan with the Illinois State Library, and there is a Patricia Smith.
Thank you, Emily. I had a little bit of trouble hearing you. You seemed a little bit faint, so I'm not sure if that's an adjustment you can make or not.
Is that better?
That's a bit better, yes. Oh, can everyone else hear Emily?
Yeah.
I can hear her. I don't think that she's especially loud.
Okay. Well, thank you, Emily. If Emily did not read your name, we'd ask that you please state your name and your affiliation, or if you could simply put it into the chat so we can add you to the minutes. Do we have anyone that Emily did not call out? In a nice way, of course. Okay. If not, we're on to public comments. So public comments, we are handling public comments via Zoom. People did have the opportunity to submit public comments ahead of time to Emily via email. Emily, did you receive any public comments in this way?
I received no public comments.
Thank you, Emily. Does anyone have any public comment at this time? Any public comment at this time? Okay, well, hearing none, we'll move on to adoption of the agenda. May I have a motion and a second to adopt the agenda as presented? And again, please, when you're making motions in second, please state your name as well so it's easier for Emily to record this in the minutes.
So moved. This is Jenna.
Thank you, Jenna.
Second, David Barry.
Dave, thank you, sir, for our second. Do any comments, additions, corrections to the agenda as presented? If not, Emily, would you please call roll?
Sure. Dave Barry.
Yes.
Stu Busenbark.
Yes.
Michael Campbell.
Yes.
Haley Cox.
Yes.
Gwen Gregory.
Yes.
Diane Hollister.
Yes.
Sarah McCone Chase.
Yes.
Mills.
Yes.
Jenna Nemec-Luisi.
Yes.
Scott Poynton.
Yes.
Nadia Shake.
Yes.
Thomas Stagg.
Yes.
Thank you, Emily, and thank you all. We now move on to our approval of the board minutes and financial reports and expenditures. First up, we have the Rails board minutes from April 24th, 2020, our regular meeting. May I have a motion and a second for the approval of these minutes of the April 24th, 2020 Rails board meeting as presented?
So moved. Sarah McConchase.
Thank you, Sarah.
Diane Hollister, second.
Thank you, Diane. Any corrections, additions, or changes to the minutes as presented? If not, Emily, would you kindly call roll?
Dave Barry,
Yes.
Sue Busenbark,
Yes.
Michael Campbell,
Yes.
Ellie Cox,
Yes.
Ben Gregory,
Yes.
Hollister,
Yes.
Sarah McCone-Chase,
Yes.
Paul Mills,
Yes.
Jenna Nemec-Louisi,
Yes.
Scott Poynton,
Yes.
Nadia Shake,
Yes.
Thomas Stagg.
Yes.
Right, thank you, Emily, and thank you all. We now move on to the Rails financial report for April 2020, and Mr. Jim Krieger will be doing that presentation.
Okay, are you hearing me through the Polycom?
Yes.
Yes, okay. All right, thank you. This is a report for April. We've completed 10 months of the fiscal year. We have 14.8 million in cash, which would finance 15.7 million or 15.7 months of operations. We haven't received a Aryan per capita grant payment since January, and it's uncertain when the next one will be, as the state situation is obviously tightening up because of the pandemic. Our revenues are now $1.7 million below budget, as we haven't received the grant revenues lately. Investment income continues to decline. We started out our first month of the year, we had 38,000 of investment income. April was 14,600, and interest rates are now below 1% when they started out the year at 2.5%. So that is having a major, getting to be a major impact. Our expenditures are 773,000 below budget. I think they'll continue to go below budget, particularly in fuel and travel related items. Our fuel bill this for April was around 10,000, which is about half of what we normally get. And our May bill, which we paid last week, was not a bill. It was a credit of $20. We incurred no fuel costs. So we'll start seeing some savings from that. Our special revenue funds are still active, the L2 and the Census 2020 project, and we are on the Census 2020, we are getting timely payments from the state on that to reimburse us for our expenditures. And as I noted, delivery fuel expenditures are 27,000 below budget through April, and they'll go to about 47,000 in May. Are there any questions? There really weren't any different changes in our trends at all in this last month, other than accelerating the the variance to budget on fuel and delivery related costs and travel.
Any questions for Jim? Okay. If not, Jim, let's move on to the expenditures report for April 2020.
And that is the listing of expenditures is at the end of the report. The expenditures in April were high. Normal month is 800 to 900,000. The expenditures in April were 1,523,409.24. In April we had 3 payrolls, and we also paid the LSAPs, their quarterly payments, which made it a bit high. And also on the credit card detail, you'll see we had payments of 40,645, That was 2 months of credit cards. The prior month did not have a payment. So it was not, and we also bought a lot of census equipment for that program that we're passing on to the subrecipients. Are there any questions on the detail on that? If not, I could ask your approval of the expenditures.
Any questions for Jim?
This is Scott. I'll move that we approve the expenditures.
This is
Thank you,
Michael.
Scott.
I second that.
Thank you, Michael. Any further questions about the expenditure report for April 2020? If not, Emily, may I please have a roll call vote?
Barry,
Yes.
Sue Busenbark,
Yes.
Michael Campbell,
Yes.
Hallie Cox,
Yes.
John Gregory,
Yes.
Diane Hollister,
Yes.
Sarah McCone Chase,
Yes.
Paul Mills,
Yes.
Jenna McLuisi,
Yes.
Scott Poynton,
Yes.
Fake,
Who?
Nadia Shake,
Yes.
Thomas Stagg.
Yes.
Thank you, Emily. Thank you, everyone. We're now on to agenda item 7, reports. We start with a report from the Rails president, which would be me. Well, first of all, I hope everyone's doing well. It's been a month since we've seen everyone about. Everyone's in good health and doing well. One thing I would just like to note is that I had the opportunity last week, it was, to participate in a webinar that was put on by Rails, Heartland, and ILA for trustees. If I remember correctly, the count was over 750 participants in that neighborhood.
Right.
Fabulous program. We had experts from HR Source. We had a financial expert. We had, most importantly, we had multiple trustees spoke about, and the topics all revolved around informing trustees about library issues during COVID-19 and what trustees can do to help their organizations. I thought it was really well done. And if you did not have a chance to see it, if I remember correctly, Deirdre, there is a recording available.
That is true.
So that is my report. We now move on to committee reports, and the first committee we have is the Advocacy Committee, and Michael.
Thanks, Paul. We had a very good meeting this week, and we really came out with about 4 or 5 key items that we want to move forward with. Deidre brought up an idea that she had seen from Massachusetts, where they had modeled a virtual legislative day to advocate for libraries, and we want to see if we can recreate that here in Illinois. As you know, equity across the state for broadband Wi-Fi has been an issue for folks trying to get a job, for school kids. All that kind of thing has been an issue. So we are asking Ann Slaughter to come next month to give us a report on how libraries are participating in that effort, and how we can help advocate for that. Jenna talked to us about how she's doing some motivational speaking, and how that she's really advocating for school librarians and other librarians to really take their seat at the table, and to do that. Sarah talked a little bit about academic librarians and libraries and how they were responding to the COVID crisis, and how they were helping their patrons there on that side, and how we can advocate more for that side of the the areas. And then we talked a little bit about the advocacy and how well My Library Is campaign has done. You know, that has really been a great advantage for libraries across the Rails area. Did I get it all?
That was
Yeah, it's good.
That was a great
Yep.
report. Thank you, Michael.
So,
Any questions for Michael on the work of the advocacy committee?
it's really a good committee. So,
Oh, that was awesome. So, thank you, Michael, and then thank you, committee members. If no one has any questions for Michael, we will move on to the consortia committee, which is me. The consortia committee has not met since the Rails board last met. We then move on to the executive committee, which also happens to be me. The executive committee has not met since we last met. So again, this makes that pretty easy. We now come to the policy committee and our vice president, Gwen Gregory.
Thank you, Paul. The policy committee has not met.
Thank you, Glenn. Succinct reports are good. We now move on to the resource sharing committee and Deirdre Brennan, our executive director.
The committee has not met.
Thank you.
There's
Deirdre.
a trend here, I see.
Well, all right, Stu, we're coming to you with the Universal Service Committee. What do you have to share with us, ma'am?
Well, again, we have not met, but I am curious if any of the board members know if their library has actually issued any temporary non-resident cards. You know, in Kiwani, we have not. Anybody here that their library has issued any? With the relaxation of the by the state board.
yes, I can tell you that Fox River Grove has issued one.
Okay.
So I believe Bartlett has, but I would have to get back to you with details.
That's okay. Just curiosity. See if anybody has asked for any.
And Sue, I can tell you for Fountaindale, just the nature, we are actually bound by a library service district in just about, or city actually, in just about everything. There isn't really, we don't actually have anyone that per the non-resident rules would actually come to us for a non-resident card.
Okay.
Same with me. Same with White Oak. We're completely encircled by other library service districts. So.
Okay. Thank you, Scott.
It's a circle of friendship, Scott, though. So, you know,
okay.
Paul,
thank you.
I have an update, I think, about this topic.
Sure.
I've been in contact, I think I might have mentioned this at a previous meeting. I've been in contact with a gentleman called Jim Airy, who is a social science teacher at Elk Grove High School, and he'd been very active in trying to get Elk Grove Village Library to do this. So, I mean, to issue temporary cards. He's also been in contact with Senator Laura Murphy, who had filed the bill that I think we talked about once before, House Bill 2096, which was the bill that would provide children who live in unincorporated areas throughout Illinois and fall below the federal income eligibility level with library cards. He emailed me yesterday that bill is supposed to pass this morning. I did let Greg McCormick know that. He did not know that. He was tracking, there was the other bill, I don't know. You know how they change names and numbers. So I don't know if that's going to happen, but he seemed, Senator Murphy seemed pretty sure. So I'll certainly keep you all updated about that too.
Deirdre, and I apologize, I don't remember the details of that bill. What was the state going to provide funding for those cards? How was
No, it would be up to the local libraries to issue the cards it's an unfunded mandate, if that's where you're going.
Okay, that's what I was curious about.
Yeah. It is a mandate and there is no funding, ergo an unfunded mandate. This is not the same as what we wanted to do, rails that we had proposed that Ansel Glink had had worked on for us, which was not a mandate. And it would enable, it would, relax, I guess, permanently, I guess, the rule that just for minors under 18, and they would not have to be under the poverty level. But that never got filed because of life happened. So we'll see what happens.
Dee, what was the number of that bill again?
That was my question too.
The number of the bill that Senator Murphy said was going to pass today was 2096, House bill.
Okay, thank you.
And Greg was tracking it as Senate Bill 3177. So I don't know what happened. I don't know what the difference is, but anyway, those are the two that are out there, so you can all keep track, and we'll certainly keep track too.
Okay, thank you, Dee.
Thank you,
Yep.
Deirdre. Any questions for either Sue or Deirdre about the Universal Service Committee? If not, thank you both for that is good for us to have. And I think we're ready to move on to 7.3, the Rails Monthly Report, and I will turn that over to Deirdre.
All right, thank you. Another interesting month, I would have to say. Paul mentioned the trustee webinar. I think that did go extremely well. We had to expand our Zoom license in order to accommodate all of that. We have obviously continued to do a lot of work associated with COVID-19. We had a very interesting meeting on Monday with some Midwest library consortia, similar to Rails from Michigan, Kansas, Missouri, and also a staff person at the Hennepin County Library in Minnesota, and the Charlotte Mecklenburg Library in Charlotte, North Carolina. And it was very interesting because they are those, I would say all of those organizations have moved into either curbside delivery or actual delivery. For example, Hennepin County opened up for curbside back in April. And I think Charlotte Mecklenburg is getting ready to do that. They have had no illness. They have had no issues. The consortia that were on the call in Missouri and I forget where the other, I'm drawing a blank if anybody who was there remembers, but they're all starting up delivery, or they have already started up delivery. And so we had a lot of conversation about how that worked and what, some people were, or some of the organizations are quarantining the materials. Some organizations are cleaning them or the containers. I mean, it was very interesting, but it was very positive to hear that some of these organizations are getting back to doing what they do, and that was hopeful news for us. On that note, we did an extensive delivery survey to find out from our members what they're thinking about in terms of reopening and delivery, et cetera. And it just closed yesterday, so we don't have any results yet. But I do want to make it very clear to everybody here on the board that when libraries are ready for delivery, we will be there to deliver. We want to get people working again. We want to get resource sharing working again, safely, of course. So we are making plans. Anybody have any questions about that right now?
Yeah, I actually do have a couple. Hi, this is Sarah.
Hey, Sarah.
I was wondering how we will know that we're going to be resuming delivery at the Rails level. And I wondered if we were going to do it for everyone at once, or if it could possibly be worked out piecemeal. So if some libraries are ready and some aren't, we can accommodate that.
Yes, we could certainly do that. I'm going to let Monica talk a little bit about that because
Okay.
she's been the leader on this.
As Deirdre mentioned, the delivery survey just closed yesterday. We have some kind of preliminary results that came from that survey, but we're going through and looking at the data now to tie it both to delivery routes and to consortia. The current plan is to have a phased plan, similar to how many of the libraries are doing phased plans, that would begin with potentially, hopefully, dependent on the results in June, to do a first run where we are able to return the materials that are currently being held in the hubs. Currently, we have about 43,000 materials between all of our hubs that need to be returned back to owning libraries. Most of our public libraries are understanding that those libraries can take those materials. Many of our school and academic libraries and some of our specials cannot. So for materials that cannot be held, those would be continue to be held in the hubs until sometime that they can be returned. And then we are looking at a phased approach based on delivery results for how we can move into the full and regular delivery sense. So we will either start with a beta testing group where a small group will go back on delivery and we'll work on that piece and then move into a full delivery status, or we'll begin with full delivery and then allow libraries to opt in as they are ready. So we will allow libraries to control whether or not they receive items as part of delivery, but we will have to, there will be a time that libraries will opt back in and then a certain amount of time to add them back into the routes because we have to reorganize the routes and reorganize delivery depending on who's actually receiving it.
Hey, Monica, this is Scott. If you're looking for an easy beta test group, I'm sure Pinnacle would be happy to serve that purpose for you.
Thank you. We did hear that Pinnacle was
happy to hear you say that. Yes.
We heard that Pinnacle was very interested in that, and so we definitely, if we move the beta test route, you're very high on our list. Certainly.
All right.
I think NIU would probably do it as well. I'm not sure if we actually got the survey filled out because I had forwarded it to our dean saying, you have the information that I don't have, but I could say that my staff would be really sort of eager to get back to this sort of work.
And what we're finding is there really is a variety across the state. What we're trying to do is to tie that a little bit to understand if those differences are happening geographically, if they're happening by consortia, just so that we can do our own approach accordingly. But as I said, because the survey just closed yesterday, we should have that data really soon. And so our plan is to be able to move forward as soon as possible. We do want to be able to communicate with libraries the changes they can expect to see 2 weeks in advance of moving into that, just to allow everybody time to adjust. So we will plan a communication, a 2-week period before we actually resume with any level of delivery, including phase 1.
Okay,
that's good. That's good to hear, because we're already starting to plan meetings to cobble together some sort of a delivery service between our 6 libraries until Rails comes back. So
yeah, I don't think you'll
No, don't do that. Don't do that. No need. We'll be.
Well, we're all opening to some extent by June 1st. So.
And we were seeing about, I think just from the preliminary results of the survey, that about 28% of libraries are opening for some phase of curbside or other phase 1 service between June 1st and June 15th. So in our area, that is what we're starting to see.
Okay.
I mean, obviously we have, it was relatively straightforward shutting it down. It's not so much opening it up again. We have to communicate with staff. Mark's been meeting regularly with his whole staff. We have, full-time people, part-time people, etc. We need to communicate with them. We need to communicate with the libraries. So that's where we're at right now. But we are anxious to get it going again. And we want to be there for the libraries when they're ready. So that's the overview of the delivery piece. Trying to think what else I wanted to tell you. I can give you the nominating committee report. I did send you an email as well, but just so you all are aware of that. Gwen Gregory was reelected as the academic library representative. The at-large seat, Christine Kenny from Poplar Creek Public Library District. Public Library trustee seat, Becky Spratford from LaGrange Public Library and Alex Vancina from New Lenox. Most unfortunately, our colleague Nadia was not reelected. We're so sorry to lose you, Nadia, but hopefully you'll be back.
That's the way the cookie crumbles in these elections.
Yes, that is true, of course, but still, we'll miss you. And then Beth Teppin from Silvis Public Library, also elected as a trustee, and Jenna Nemec-Aloisi was reelected to the school library seat. So congratulations to all of these successful candidates. And I think I'll stop there and see if anybody has any more questions about anything.
Anyone have any questions for Deirdre?
Yeah, I'm looking at the email and there are 3 people who are listed as trustees. Is it just Beth who was reelected or are there 3 new trustees? I guess I'm confused.
We had 3 seats. 3 trustee seats were up for election.
Okay.
And so, yeah.
So the 3 people who are listed are all the new people. Okay, thank you. Sorry about the confusion.
No, that's okay.
Well, congratulations to Gwen and Jenna on your reelection, and Nadia, we will miss you, ma'am. I'm sorry this election did not work out for you.
No worries. I'll miss you guys even more.
Any questions for Deirdre about her written report? If not, we will move on to 7.4, the Illinois State Library Report. Karen, will you be delivering that today?
I will, Paul. Thank you. And hi to everybody on the Rails board. It's beautiful here in Springfield for the first time in a week with no rain. And there is a lot going on in Springfield. As you've heard, the General Assembly is here and they are moving fast and furious. And Dee, just a quick note, I talked to Greg this morning, and the Senate Bill 3177 regarding the cards for kids, according to what Greg saw, it passed 54-0.
Wow.
So they expect it to fly through the House today as well. So that will be interesting to watch to see where that goes. The state library is actually an observation site for the public wanting to observe the Senate hearings, and the atrium is set up for social distancing. So if you can just imagine the state library atrium with chairs all set 6 feet apart. It looks very strange, but we're doing our part. Good news at this point, and that was as of 10 o'clock this morning, the Secretary of State's budget for libraries and literacy is at the level that Secretary White introduced it. So now that's subject to change, but that's good news. The Secretary of State office will be making an announcement likely today about reopening, and state library staff will be back in the office on June 1st, and we expect to be open for business that day. So good news on that front. Now, the FY21 Public Library Per Capita Grant was delayed, as those of you in public libraries are much aware. It is our intent that this is our #1 priority when we get back in the office. Everything has been calculated, it's ready to go, the money is there, it's just a matter of getting it processed. Because of the shutdown, it just didn't happen. So that is our first priority when we get back in the office. As well, the fiscal year 20 Live and Learn construction grants, those announcements will be made in the coming days, and in-depth reviews of the FY21 literacy grants, which do have partnerships with libraries, are being addressed as soon as possible as well. So those 3 grant programs are at the top of the to-do list as soon as we get back in the office. Does anybody have any questions about anything going on at the State Library or in Springfield right now that I can help you with?
Karen, this is Scott Poynton. You mentioned that the funding ask, so to speak, is going in from Jesse White's office with regard to libraries, the full ask. Does that include the increase that was asked for the per capita, or is it
I don't know that, Scott. I don't know. It's going in as he introduced it. That's all I know.
Okay.
It was included in his budget. I do remember that. But we'll see.
So Karen, a question I had for you. You mentioned that Illinois State Library staff will be back in the library starting June 1st, which is a Monday. So did I understand correctly? You also envision that you will be serving your public on June 1st as well?
That is the intent that we have heard. Yes. Okay. Now it's going to be strict, masks when you're in the building and social distancing. No birthday parties, no celebrations, none of those going on. Not even sure I can take a dozen donuts for the first day, but yeah, but they do expect, and for the public, when you think about the Secretary's operations with vehicle services and people wanting to get their driver's license renewed, so many things were extended through the pandemic that, think of the Secretary's office in the big picture of everything being opened to allow people to get back in and get their licenses and stand in line 6 feet apart.
Yeah.
Karen, this is Sue Busenbark, and my question is kind of along the same lines as Paul. Will the Talking Books program start back up fairly soon? I'm asking for my aunt who uses it.
Actually, they have been working awkwardly during the pandemic.
Okay.
And I say awkwardly because they've been actually interlibrary loaning books from other states to be sent to Talking Book patrons on their behalf to keep books in the hands of readers, because they can't get in to send out the books that the readers want. So if your aunt even sends an email at this point that just says, "Help, I need something to read. Can you send me something?"
Okay, I'll pass that on to her.
They should be able to help her.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Anything else? We look forward to seeing you all in person someday soon.
That is
I know. I told Greg last week when we were talking on the phone, and he told me your guys were going to open in June, and I said I'm going to drive down to Springfield for a meeting just because I can.
That's great. Oh, we miss that interaction with you guys terribly much.
Yep.
But it's good to see you in virtual. So you guys have my email if you have any questions. I know we discovered we are not set up to work remotely. It's very awkward, but we do have remote access to email. It's probably the easiest way to reach us if you have questions in the meantime. Thank you so much.
Karen. Thank you, Karen.
Thank you, Karen, for that really informative report. We now move on to unfinished business and 8.1, the system area per capita grant application. So Deirdre, would you like to provide us with a background refresher on this?
Sure. This we do, this is our grant application that we do every year to the state library that describes what we will do with our budget in the coming year. We did talk about it preliminarily last month. We went through the proposed operational plan. I imagine you remember that vividly. And just to refresh your memories a bit, so the state library told us to assume level funding, which is what happens about every year. Of course, and it's wonderful to hear that the secretary's budget is still in the form we want it to be in with the General Assembly. However, there's no telling what will actually end up being our funding, given the economic impact of the coronavirus pandemic. However, since we don't know what that impact is, it only makes sense to base the plan of service and the budget on what the statutory funding level is, which is just short of $10 million. So essentially, we're continuing to do all of the major services that we do every year: resource sharing, delivery, continuing education and training, e-read and biblio board, cooperative purchases, My Library Is, all of the services that you're very well aware of. We plan to keep them going. And hopefully, if the budget is good, we'll be able to do a few additional things, but we're not expecting that. So as I described last month, and if you, in your packet, in document 8.1, which is really thick, looks like this. The 2.2 in that big document is the detailed budget narrative that Jim has written to explain what the budget contains and what it doesn't. I would say that the main thing that we have put in the budget every year that isn't in the budget this year is the cost of living raise for staff. We hope that we will be able to add that back into the budget when we know what our actual budget is, which may not be until the fall. I expect that one way or another, the board will be discussing and amending the budget and the plan of service that you see today. So there won't be any, there aren't any staff raises in the budget. However, like I say, we hope we can add them in later. We are going to be deferring all expenses that we can. For example, we need to upgrade our laptops, but we're not going to buy them until we know what our budget is. So anything like that we don't need to do right away, we won't do until we're absolutely certain about how much money we do have. Obviously, the My Library Is work and the training that we've been doing, these are very important activities just in general, but in this crisis, they have been invaluable, helping libraries and trustees, as Paul described, 700 people on the webinar last week. There's such a need for training and information, as well as for advocacy. Libraries locally are going to be facing economic difficulties as well, I fear. So would you like to say anything, Jim?
Just that we, aside from the cost of living increases, we put everything into the budget that we thought we needed to achieve our strategic plan goals. But we will defer everything that we can until our funding level becomes apparent.
We didn't put any vehicle purchases in the budget this year, for example. We usually, replace some vehicles. We're not going to do that. We have instituted a hiring freeze so that, if there is a budget cut, that may be of some assistance as well. Yeah. So I don't know really what else to say at this point. I hope that I hope this budget and plan of service, I hope we actually get to do it all, frankly. But I do suspect that we will be back at some point later in the year to make some cuts. I'm a very optimistic person, so I certainly hope I'm wrong, but just in case I'm not wrong, we're going to, keep things as lean as we can until we know exactly how much we have to operate with this year. We do have reserves, as Jim described, when he was doing his financial report, and when we didn't have a budget for 2 years, when we only got, I think, 58% of our funding for 2 years.
4 million short every year.
We were 4
for 2
million
years.
short for 2 years. We used our reserves, but that was very much a cash flow at a sort of a political battle, pitched battle that was going on. This, could be a whole different, longer term kind of situation. So I think we have to be a little bit more careful about using the reserves. And it wouldn't surprise me, and in fact, I think it's already happening, that, there's a much bigger backlog in the controller's office now in terms of getting payments out. We haven't gotten any payments in months.
Since January.
Since January.
Yeah,
so
on the area and per capita grant.
Tough to know about that. So
there's over 6 million in the hopper still for this year.
Right.
And
we're waiting for 6.
the,
Yeah. So
the vouchers have been submitted for quite some time.
Right. I mean, we think we'll get that money, but there's so much uncertainty, as you all know, and we're just trying to be, realistically optimistic or optimistically realistic, or whatever you want to.
I might add also on the census program, that grant was through June 30th,
right.
And the Department of Public Health, whoever administers that, is apparently working on trying to get a fiscal year 21 grant for that, but we have no details on that. So that program may extend into fiscal year 21, so that may be another change to the budget.
Right.
But we have not budgeted for that because it's kind of speculative at this point. But that's something that could come up.
Questions?
This is Sue, and I just want to thank Jim for the budget narrative. That was very helpful to me. Explaining.
Thank you.
Yes, very helpful. Thank you.
Yes, Jim does a great job with that. It is his magnum opus every year.
Does anyone have any questions for Deirdre or Jim about the system area per capita grant application? If not, may I have a motion and a second to approve the system area per capita grant application?
So moved, David Berry.
Thank you, Dave.
Second.
Hallie.
I think I heard Hallie, so Hallie, we'll give it to you, ma'am. Any further discussion or questions about the system area per capita grant application? If not, Emily, may I have a roll call vote, please?
Dave Barry,
Yes.
Sue Busenbark,
Yes.
Michael Campbell,
Yes.
Kelly Cox,
Yes.
Gwen Gregory,
Yes.
Diane Hollister,
Yes.
Sarah McCone Chase,
Yes.
Paul Mills,
Yes.
Jenna Nemec-Luisi,
Yes.
Scott Poynton,
Yes.
Nadia Shake,
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
All right, thank you all, and thank you, Emily. Well, we are coming down to the agenda building for the next Rails board meeting, although I will caution everyone, we do have an executive session coming up, so don't tune out just yet. So at this time, we are still going to make an assumption that our next board meeting will be held via Zoom, which would be on Friday, June 19th, 2020. But please do check your Rails board email just in case things do change. Things we tentatively have planned for the agenda including the board meeting schedule for FY 2021, which starts July 1st, a presentation of the proposed slate of officers for FY 2021, and also the executive director goals for FY 2021. Earlier, Deirdre had discussed our newly elected and re-elected trustees, and the new members will certainly be invited to attend the board meeting in June as well. Is there anything at this time that we would like to see added to the agenda for June?
Paul, I don't have anything I want to add. I just wanted to point out to everybody in the chat, if you don't mind, that there is one other CE recording that I think you would all be really interested in. You remember we had Miguel Figueroa come to a board meeting and he gave a really interesting presentation on trends. Well, he did a webinar for us on trend scanning during the pandemic. And the URL is in the chat, and I was not able to attend, but I'm going to listen because it was apparently really interesting and really useful, particularly for, leaders like yourselves who are having to or wanting to plan for the future during the pandemic. I think, did anybody out there go to it? Does anybody have anything they want to add about it?
I can just share that it's very helpful from the standpoint of really looking at a lot of different industries, including retail and internationally, how different countries are handling reopening and the ways that they're moving forward. So it was a great presentation and a lot of things in there I hadn't heard in other places.
This is
Thanks,
Diane.
Monica.
Is it recorded? Is it available on recording? Okay, thank you.
Link is in the chat. If you go to chat, you can open that up and the link is in there as well. But I can send it to everyone too.
Please,
That'd be
please,
great, Emily.
All right. Well, that sounds really good. Thank you, Deirdre, for mentioning that. Well, folks, we are now on to agenda item 10, which is our closed session, and I have something I do need to read, just so that it's clear for everyone what's happening next. The board will move into closed session to discuss matters pertaining to personnel as per 5 Illinois compiled statutes, Chapter 120, Paragraph 2, Section C1, which states, exceptions. A public body may hold closed meetings to consider the following subjects: the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public body or legal counsel for the public body, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee of the public body or against legal counsel for the public body to determine its validity. Having said that, may I now have a motion and a second to move into closed session? And again, please do state your name so it'll be easy for Emily to record this.
This is Scott. I'll make the motion to go into executive session.
Thank you, Scott.
Diane Hollister, second.
Thank you, Diane. Emily, would you please call roll?
Dave Barry,
Yes.
Sue Busenbark,
Yes.
Michael Campbell,
Yes.
Haley Cox,
Yes.
Gwen Gregory,
Yes.
Diane Hollister,
Yes.
Sarah McCone Chase,
Yes.
Paul Mills,
Yes.
Dana McLuisi,
Yes.
Scott Poynton,
Yes.
Shake, Nadia Shake,
Yes.
Thomas Stagg,
Yes.
all set.
All right, thank you all. So a little bit on mechanics, folks. We are going to move into closed session now. The live stream will stop and we will resume the live stream when we move out of closed session. Non-board member Zoom meeting participants will be moved into the waiting room. I'm sure some of you are familiar with that if you've attended Zoom meetings. Until the board votes to come out of closed session. And of course, it just as a reminder for all of us, so that we're experienced with this, we're not going to be taking any votes in closed session. May I have a motion to move out of closed session?
So moved. This is Jenna Nemick-Luisi.
Thank you, Jenna.
Seconded by Nadia.
Thank you, Nadia. May I, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? All right, we are out of closed session. Thank you all. We are now back. And just because we're being very formal here, thank you all who stayed with us while we were in closed session. Now, may I have a motion to move the Rails board into open session?
So moved. Sarah McCone Chase.
Thank you, Sarah.
Second, Hallie Cox.
Thank you, Hallie. All right, Emily, would you please call roll to bring us all back into open session?
Sure. Can you guys all hear me?
Yes.
Dave Barry,
Yes, here.
Sue Busenbark,
Yes.
Michael Campbell,
Yes.
Hallie Cox,
Yes.
Gwen Gregory,
Yes.
Diane Hollister,
Yes.
Sarah McCone Chase,
Yes.
Paul Mills,
Yes.
Jenna McLuisi,
Yes.
Scott Poynton,
Yes.
Nadia Sheikh,
Yes.
and Thomas Stagg.
Yes.
All right, thank you all. Like I said, thank you all for staying with us. Scott, would you be willing to make a motion for us?
Yes. So in executive session, the board discussed our executive director's compensation. And I would like to make a motion that this board record a recommendation that at such point that the FY 2021 Rails financing budget is known and the rest of the Rails staff is then eligible to receive their cost of living increase, that we increase the executive director's salary to $160,500 per year. That's the motion.
Thank you, Scott. May I have a second for that motion?
I second. This is Jenna Nanakuisi.
Thank you, Jenna. We have a motion and a second on the floor. Are there any? Is there any conversation or discussion about that motion? Emily, would you please call roll?
Dave Barry,
Yes.
Sue Busenbark,
Yes.
Michael Campbell,
Yes.
Hallie Cox,
Yes.
Gwen Gregory,
Yes.
Diane Hollister,
Yes.
Sarah McCone Chase,
Yes.
Paul Mills,
Yes.
Jenna McLuisi,
Yes.
Scott Poynton,
Yes.
Nadia Sheikh,
Yes.
and Thomas Stagg.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you for attending the Rails board meeting. Thank you to all the board of directors who are here. We have no further business.
Thank you all. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
No, thank you, Deirdre. Thank you for your service, ma'am. Thank you very much. Unless there's any further business or any other comments any board members would like to make? Hearing none, I thank you all for your attendance, and everyone have a good Memorial Day weekend, and we will see everyone in June. And I now declare this meeting adjourned at 11:30 a.m.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Goodbye.
you, everyone.
Bye.
Have a good
Bye, everybody.
weekend.